Welcome to Wrong Time Watch. My name is Kevin, and today we're looking at the MMI turret 300 meter dive watch, and this is version 2. The original one came out in, well, I think it's about 2 years ago. I don't remember the exact date, but I had the original one in a while ago. Then I had in recently a blood red dial, and this is my first time seeing this silver dial. Normally I'm not a fan of silver dialed watches, but I like this one. This works. I like the orange around the perimeter, the orange text in the middle, and also the date indicator is orange as well. That's around the inner circle. You see right over here at the 9 o'clock indice, there is a little orange, I don't know what you would call that shape, but right next to number 23 is indicating the date. And also you can see the dial is kind of it's a brushed finish. It's not just a plain flat finish. Hopefully you can see that across your end of the screen there. Let's move this out of the way. Maybe it'll focus a little better. Yeah, there you go. You can see some brushing on there. The orange it's a fluorescent orange. It's almost like a blaze orange. If you guys go hunting or anything, you have to, well, at least in my state, you're supposed to wear blaze orange. That's what that reminds me of. The bezel insert is stainless steel, but it is ion plated, IP plated. I think there's 6 layers of IP coating on there, so I really like the look of this bezel insert. Also, the stainless steel will be stronger than aluminum, so be a reduced chance of getting denting or scratching. Also, it's not ceramic. Ceramic could break, it could shatter. Same thing for sapphire with a sapphire bezel insert. So a lot of benefits to having a stainless steel bezel insert. So as I mentioned, this is version 2. I'll leave a link in the description to the website. It looks like you can still order some of these. This will be shipping. These will be shipping May to June. It said late May, early June 2022. And this bezel is somewhat subset into the case here, so it kind of protects the bezel. You have these 4 lugs or 4 corners that are kind of protecting the case. I'm sorry, protecting the bezel. So this one's a little bit harder to turn, but you can still manage it easy enough. You should like to grip it from, I guess here you do it from the outside, and then right here in between the lugs. This is a Lume bezel insert, so we'll check that out towards the end of the video. And this has a nice flat sapphire crystal with 10 layers of AR coating applied to the underside. I've really come to appreciate flat crystals. Earlier in my collecting career, I've always wanted domed crystals or a box dome sapphire. I really like just a plain flat sapphire. It's so much easier for me to just glance at the watch and read the time. And speaking of that, the version 2 has larger indices, and these indices go all the way out to the chapter ring or rehaut, whatever you want to call it. And larger indices, more lume applied to these indices. And also the cutouts for the date are a little bit larger now, and then the date indicator is a lot more visible, which I can attest to. The earlier versions I had in was a lot harder to see where you're at on the date. One problem I have is really can't read those numbers all that well by eye. Maybe you can, but that would be one benefit of putting it around the perimeter, is that the numbers could be larger on the perimeter. So the case is still the same, the bracelet's the same. It has a mixture of brushed and polished surfaces. The watch is basically all brushed except for these polished chamfers inside the lug and outside the lug. I think it's a good looking watch overall. So they got their design inspiration from the, I think it's the USS Monitor, the first, I think it was a Civil War basically a battleship. It had iron sides to it, and then it had a turret on the top that turned with 2 cannons in it, and that's where they came up with the inspiration for this watch. Oh, also they improved the lume on this. The previous version had X1C1 lume. This version has X1C3 lume, so it'll be brighter and longer lasting. Still does have the Seiko NH35 movement, which is perfectly fine. I mean, really no reason for you to upgrade beyond that movement. It'll last you a long time. I have my Seiko SKX here. Well, this has a 7S26, but my point is I've never serviced this watch, and the movement still seems to be working fine, and that's a Seiko movement, obviously, in the Seiko watch. Only downside is it's 6 beats per second instead of 8, so not quite as smooth of a sweep as the typical Swiss movement. Take a quick look at the case back here. So nicely engraved case back, pretty simple, but really don't need anything too fancy back here. It does have the quick release spring bars for the end links again, solid end links, solid bracelet. This portion of the clasp is milled, these two portions are stamped, and you do have 5 micro adjusts. So back to the dial side, I want to mention that there are 4 colors. There is a steel black, there is a retro blue. It looks like the retro blue does not have lume, which is kind of a weird choice, but that's what the website says. There's the silver dial, and then there is a sand black dial. So like I said, I'll leave a link in the description. You guys can go check that out. Okay, so the dimensions of this watch, it does have female end links, so the lug-to-lug will be a true lug-to-lug with the bracelet installed. Looking at 47.1 millimeter lug-to-lug, 40 millimeter case and bezel diameter, 22 millimeter lug width, and that does taper slightly down to 20. I would prefer to see more taper to the bracelet, but I think it suits this watch just fine. At least it has a little bit of taper. 13.5 millimeter thick, so same thickness as my SKX, but this is rated to 300 meters of water resistance versus 200 for the SKX. And the crown is a 6.9 millimeter signed screw down crown. This watch size for my wrist weighs in at 168 grams. Oh, I totally forgot to mention the price. It's I forgot what the Singaporean dollar equivalent is, but it's listed on the website in SGD. I think it's $391 or something like that, but it works out to about 289 or 288 US dollars. It's below 300 bucks, so I think it's a good bang for the buck. The silver dial really surprised me. Normally I'm not a fan, like I said, of silver dials, but it just works. It looks good. I think it's the combination of the orange and the black, and then the stainless steel bracelet. I really like this color combination. All right, here's a look at this. I think I'm at 1x zoom here, and then I'll zoom out in a moment. Nice brushed finish to the case in the bracelet and the clasp. All right, let's zoom out here for a little bit different perspective. Oh yeah, so I have a 6.5 inch wrist with 52 millimeter wristband, so 47.1 works out well here. Yeah, I really like this color combination. I think that's my 3rd or 4th time saying that, but this watch surprised me. Alright, if you have not subscribed yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like the video, and leave a comment below. I greatly appreciate it. Appreciate the support. And let's take a look at the lume here. We'll be right back. Alright, so the MMI turret 300, obviously on the left, Seiko SKX 009 on the right. Plenty of lume with the turret, and yes, the orange ring around the perimeter of the dial is lumed as well, in addition to the date indicator, which is right over by the 9 o'clock indice. Lumed stainless steel IP coated bezel insert, and good lume on the hands and indices. Not quite as bright as the SKX. I think that's just because the SKX has a thicker or wider hands and the indices as well, but really great lume on this thing. Actually, the dial kind of looks orange because the lume is somehow reflecting off of the rehaut, maybe it's just my eyes, I don't know. Looks kind of orangish to me. Anyway, that will conclude this video. As always, thank you for taking the time, and thank you for watching.